operations. In each of these cases, the function can be. In each of these cases, the internal audit function can face a multitude of challenges when attempting to meet management expectations. So, to discuss this very important topic and to answer your questions, I have invited very eminent professionals. With this, I would like to thank our distinguished speakers and panelists for taking time out of their very busy schedule and joining the webinar. Inshallah, we are going to have a great session. Thank you. Jahandev, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rafkat Saab, for your kind words. Of course, we all realize and appreciate the importance of controls and being professional accounts and auditors are cognizant of this fact that for organization to have an unleashed growth, it is very challenging to sustain that. It's better to take risk in a calculated manner and proceed with that. With this, now I will be moving on to our keynote speaker, Syed Shahid Abbas Rizvi Saab. Shahid is a fellow member of our institute, a seasoned professional. He is more focused on nurturing people to believe in themselves and lead. He enjoys building strong teams with high levels of trust, customer focus, delivery, and a will to do things differently. He has across the globe learning experience, including from knowledge depositories at UK, US, Turkey, Sweden, Luxembourg, Singapore, etc. He has been a speaker at national and international forums, including for telecom, internal audit, risk management, IT control, an inbuilt leader and a person who likes to share knowledge and bring his best to fraternity and to our fellow professionals. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to introduce to you Mr. Shahid Abbas Rizvi, FCA. He is the Group Chief Internal Audit for PTCL and UFUN. Shahid Abbas Rizvi, sir, it's over to you, please.
शाहिद साहब का मतलब कनेक्शन डिस्टर्ब तो नहीं हुआ?
सर शायद साहब डिस्कनेक्टेड है।
शाहिद साहब को आप वहां से स्क्रीन अलाउ कर दें, अटेंडी में आ रहे हैं अभी वो।
जी, अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
जी वालेकुम सलाम शाहिद।
Alhamdulillah. Can you all listen to me?
जी, we can. If you want to share the screen, you may please.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm not sure why I was getting some problem right now, but at the moment it's okay, I guess. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So can you see the screen?
Yes, good enough. Ji, please.
Okay, let me just remove this. Okay. Ji, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much again for having me here, and sorry for this minor disturbance. You know, webinars and IT, this is how it is these days. You can't work without it, and at times you're too dependent on them. So, okay, so thank you very much, and let me start. So, thinking of transformation, it's a very important topic. What comes to my mind is the last 24 years of my own career, the transformations and the changes that I've seen over the last many years. quarter of a decade, quarter of a century, I would say. Yeah. So in 1996, when I first joined PwC as a junior trainee, what I remember is, the first task you would generally be given is to search for physical files, do some totals, castings, and calculations, and stuff like that. And the only computers that would be available in the office would be in the typing room. So even the partners wouldn't have computers in those days. So it was very different. And by the time I was leaving the firm, yes, the laptops had come. They used to be they used to be considered as a privileged kind of thing, only with the assistant managers. And now we are here today, sitting in different parts of the world, connected to each other. Just see how things have transformed. Partly because of the availability of the technology, and partly because of COVID as well. Yeah. So I'll start my discussion. I'll be sharing some of my thoughts with you initially on the transformation, and then, if time permits, I'll also be sharing some of the experiences that we've done on the transformation side in the PTCL group. So from the auditor's side, I really believe that the question of transformation is not whether to or whether not to transform. It's a matter of really survival for all of us, for the audit professionals. And at times when we think of transformation or survival, we think, okay, who will replace us? Who is the competition? So at times, a major mistake an individual makes is not to understand what is the real competition. So, for example, taking you back again in 2003, when I joined the cellular sector for the first time, the biggest operator, telecom operator, or should I say the cellular operator, was Instaphone. By far, it was the biggest. And where is it today? It's nowhere. And why? The reason is not that it was not sort of performing, or that the competition outperformed. No, the reason is that the competition we perceive is that, for example, if we're in an industry, we are competing against other industry companies, whereas the real competition lies between the group companies, because every business is undertaken by the investors to earn money. And most of the investors these days are big groups, big conglomerates or groups, having businesses in different countries. So unless you are quite profitable, they would switch to some other company, and the capex would go somewhere else. So same happened to Instaphone to an extent, that they were not able to survive because the shareholders were not interested in the business anymore. So we need to understand where the competition really lies as internal auditors as well. Using this analogy, it's not, we're not competing with each other. We're competing with the other professionals around us, other departments who bring value to the company. And because the costs, the human resources, and all the costs that are available for on our disposal are limited. Whoever brings greater value to the company would actually get those costs, yeah, or resources. So we need to fight for that. The next thing, from the auditor's perspective again, is something that we've been discussing for quite a long time. I mean, all the webinars, seminars, conferences you hear, it's almost a cliche now to be talking about digitization and its impact on jobs. And we've been talking about this, that 80% of the jobs currently in the market won't exist in 10 years from now. So we have been discussing this for quite some time, but the question is, what has been our response to this challenge? I mean, are we waiting for this change to come and hit us, or are we actually doing something about it? So again, I'd like to take you back to my college days, should I say, when I was in the Government College of Commerce. We used to have teacher. His name was Bhutto Sahab. Bhutto Sahab used to teach accounting, and I remember one thing that he always used to say was that you'll find doctors unemployed, you'll find engineers a lot unemployed, but show me a BCommer, show me an accountant unemployed. And he was true actually in those times, early 90s. Every company, every organization would need an accountant. They wouldn't need, every business or organization wouldn't need engineers or doctors, but accountants were needed by everybody. So if you're a BCommer, it was very difficult to find yourself in an unemployed condition. But now, 24 years down the road, things have changed. Now it's very difficult for a BCommer to really get a job today, a simple accountant. Similarly, we saw what happened with the taxi drivers. Uber and Kareem's came in, and so the business models are changing. But the question is, do we really think, as happens in the case of deaths, we see people leaving this world, but we never feel like we will also be living one day. We just don't feel like it. So do we really feel that this digitization won't impact us as internal auditors? Do we feel that no, it's a legal requirement to have an internal audit function, so we'll always survive? I don't think this is the wise way forward. So we need to really start thinking of what should be our response to this digitization. And thirdly, the resource mix. Now it's always a discussion, that okay, we have this many people in our department. How many financial auditors should we have, and how many IT auditors should we have? So like 10, 15 or 20 years back, we used to have financial auditors only, mostly. And now the proportion of IT auditors is increasing, and it also varies from industry to industry. But the point that I want to make over here is that now the discussion, especially for me as well, it's not that it's something that is coming in the future. Now when we are hiring, we're not looking at whether it's a financial auditor or it's an IT auditor. Both these skills are very respectful. We have qualified accountants, we have qualified IT professionals, but now what we need is data science experts, very honestly. So I need financial experts who are also well versed in data science. We need IT auditors who are also well versed in data science. So for example, in these days, you can't expect to hire someone who doesn't have basic technology literacy and MS Office and everything. So similarly, as we move along, this will become a necessity really to have with you, in addition to your financial or IT knowledge, the data science knowledge, to be able to analyze big chunks of data and to make meaningful insights out of it. So yeah, now I'd like to discuss some aspects of the audit committee from the perspective of audit committee. So what value do internal auditors bring to the audit committee? Now let's see. Audit committee, these are the people of the board who are expected by the board to get a different perspective as compared to what the management is actually telling them. So they have a lot of hopes from the auditors, and they're not expecting really the conventional kind of reporting these days. But the challenges of the audit committee members, I'd like to share with you. Now let's see what are the challenges. Generally, the people on the board are very successful in their careers, and they, in addition to their regular job and careers, they are nominated on one or even numerous boards. So each quarter they have an audit committee meeting to attend, and the kind of reporting the auditor does over there, the chief internal auditor, that reporting is, I mean, I've seen packs as big as, more than 50 slides, yes. So they really need to think what kind of value we are bringing to the audit committee. Firstly, in terms of the information that we were able to highlight, the relevant, but also on the reporting side, the information should be so concise, visual, and refined that it takes minimum time of the audit committee's members to actually go through it. So what we've been doing in our PTCL group is that For example, our audit committee pack is, I don't know, would you believe it or not, but it's four slides now. We've changed it to 4 slides over the past 6 months, and some details are pushed into the annexure. If the audit committee members, for example, are in need of it or want to see some details, they are there. But the 4 slides, and all of those slides, they're mostly visual. And if I get more time, I mean, in the end, I'll show you some of the slides, some glimpses of, you know, what kind of reporting we're doing. So we're mostly focused on dashboards and you know, just the critical things, nothing else. So lastly, the perspective of customer. So you know, historically, the audit committee gets in some financial inputs from the auditors, some IT inputs from the auditors, but the customer side, generally the auditors are not really able to, you know, the market side, the business side, they're not really able to get hold of that side. So this is also something that the audit committee members looking forward, you know, need from internal auditors. Now, I would also like to discuss briefly the internal audit product suite. What products do we offer as internal auditors? So again, the question is of value and how we need to transform. So generally, if you see 90% of the audit functions, you will see they're doing audits and audits. So I mean, if they really stretch, they offer some consultings if ever asked for. And if the company does not have a you know, a forensic department or compliance department, then they also perform some investigations. But mostly it's audits, and you know, they don't really have a lot of products you know, to offer. So just sharing with you some of other products that we need to develop, and this is not an exhaustive list, of course. Over time, we need to really come up with new values. So just briefly discussing some of these. Early warning alerts is something that we, so for example, what happens conventionally? A year passes, all business operations have been, you know, have been run and have been reported, and then now the auditor comes in and audits the last 1 year or 2 years and reports on that. So we come at the end of the food chain, of course. So we can't proactively, you know, highlight things or risks. So our audit plan is such that, and it's approved, said that it does not allow that flexibility unless we do some tweaking. So not really restricted to the audit plan. What we can do is that often we hear some rumors in the company, or you know, we come across some credible information that has a potential risk for the company, which the management is either not aware or is not, you know, properly responding to, or does not is not aware of the gravity of the situation. What we do generally is that we spend a day or two by minimum resources, and we come up with a one-page report of, you know, what was the problem, what is it that we did, and what is the impact, how much can we save, what is the risk that can be mitigated, whatever. A single one-page report. We shouldn't shy away from, you know, addressing the risks, because it's not in our plan for this year. So this is one product. Change management, you know, it always happens that, you know, when you do an IT or system or platform audit, that you know, you come up with some recommendations for example, there are some access controls or some issues. So at that time, the management or the CTIO, he gives you some timelines, and at times they discuss with the vendors. It requires a change request, and the vendor is actually asking for the waiting for this time, because the business model is to sell cheap and then earn money on the change requests. So what happens is that for very simple changes, they ask very huge sums of money. So basically the changes are pended, delayed till the next swap. So the wiser thing for the auditor is to be involved before or at the time of swaps. Whenever you know, an auditor should be aware of which critical systems are going to be swapped in this year or the next 6 months, and whenever there is a case, then the auditor should pull out the last audit report of that system, or for example, review the RFP or overall the details of the system and its requirements, having a brief review. And at that point in time, if the auditor, you know, suggests some improvements, they're actually processed without any cost. So this really proactively brings value to the company without incurring any cost at all. Thirdly, benchmarking. This is a product that we're introducing over here. Actually, the auditors have to be mindful that each company is different, and their requirements will be different. So this benchmarking product that we are introducing over here in PTCL group is unique to our needs. For example, we focus on close liaison with in terms of learning and processes between UPhone and PTCL. So benchmarking actually helps us see how we're operating on the UPhone side and how we're operating on the PTCL side, and how we can learn from each other. So this is a quarterly benchmarking report, internal benchmarking, which we as independent people do, allowing people with different departments to see their level of synergies on the governance stage, on the reporting stage, training stage, KPIs, policies, procedures, whatever. So this is a product that we've developed internally for unique for our group. Similarly, continuous auditing. How long will we continuously just thinking about it, and when will be the time when audit functions would actually start entering into these areas. Now, I would also like to say some words about how the internal auditors need to bring value in the future. Now, internal auditor role is very sensitive, because it has to manage different stakeholders. Now, on the screen, you can see that we have three kinds of products. On the right side, we have the investigations, then we have the audits, and then we have the advisory consulting role. Now, if you see that the best practices are that your controls should be so good that there is no need for any investigation, a fraud or whatever investigation. Yeah. So if you're having an investigation, it is generally contrary to the best practice in this sense. If you're having an audit, it is a conventional practice. It is to be there. And let me use my pointer if that's possible. Yeah. So yeah. And responsiveness. Yeah. So an investigation is started when, for example, somebody blows a whistle. Yeah. So it's a reactive kind of thing. Audit is active, I would say, but consulting is proactive, where both the management and the auditor has a control on which area they need to proactively engage in consulting relationship. Let's talk about the relationship quality with the management. And the investigations, of course, it's unhealthy. Generally, the internal audit should not be doing an investigation. It's a second line of defense job. When the internal audit third line of defense does this, it also hampers the relationship and the trust relationship. That on one side we need to balance the independence, and on the other side we need to manage the relationship. So it kind of adversely impacts that relationship as well. Audit is generally, yes, I would say, an uncomfortable, yes, because of the inherent nature of the job. But consulting is healthy in the sense that management actively seeks the input. So the risk management, again, in the investigation, generally the risks are materialized. Audit, both cases are possible, and in consulting we are proactively avoiding the risk beforehand. So the idea is to actually move towards the left. The more and more focus, even the international standards require internal audit to participate in consulting engagements, although the balance has to be ensured. So now let me move on to some of the products that we have brought in our PTCL group as forms of transformation. So what we've done in the past 6 to 8 months at least is that we've tried to completely transform the function. Now, it was already a very energetic and very efficient internal function when I took over. People were very energetic. We are, IIA certified. Very few internal departments in Pakistan are IIA certified, and PTCL group earned this certification in 2015, by the way, and we renewed it this April as well. But still, you always have a choice whether to be complacent with where you're standing right now, or you think of transforming the business with respect to the future needs. So this is what this all, the whole webinar is about. So what we started doing was, I'll just briefly mention some of the things. We on the people side, we have a team dashboard, like on the audit department screens. We have a dashboard educating the the auditors on how the business is doing on the business side, how the industry is doing, what are the global practices. So we update this dashboard on a monthly basis to sort of raise the business acumen of the auditor, so that when the auditor goes to any technical, commercial, any function, he or she is the most knowledgeable person in the company. I mean, it's not always the case that the auditor is learning from them the systems and they're auditing, but the auditor should be very well versed with the current situation of the industry and the company, the good things, the sales trends, anything, so we have the internal dashboard for this purpose. Then we just earlier we used to have like two verticals. We had a UPhone vertical of audit, and we have a PTCL vertical. Now we have combined this into three different verticals. We have the technology vertical. Now we have the finance and operational vertical, and we've created a third vertical, and that vertical is called, because when we combined both teams, there were synergies, and we were able to relieve some of the people. We used those synergies to actually create a third vertical called the digitalization and forensics. And so the third vertical is responsible for digitalizing the audit function, for taking care of its forensic role, and also the quality assurance role, because quality assurance and forensics should be separate from the audit operations. So having done this, and we're also focusing on digitalization, which we have a 2-year agenda. We have delivered a lot of digital products even in the past 6 months, although it's just a start. But this is the third function. So the point is, every audit function will not be able to restructure itself in this way, because I mean, we have audit functions of 1 or 2 or 3 individuals. Yeah, with us in the 3 companies, we have PTCL, UPhone, and UBank. We have like 45-50 professionals. So we so each company or each CIA has to himself see how its internal function should be structured. Thirdly, rebranding. So when we think of changing our focus and really changing the way we do the audits, trying to do audits differently and bringing in different value in the future, we also rebranded ourselves. And rebranding included a lot of things, including if for example, I can show you how the walls of internal audit function look like in our offices. This is a glimpse, I don't know if you can see, of different walls. We have 8 different walls, and the idea is to be digitalized in the future. So we have our own rebranding signatures and a lot of stuff. Okay, then the monthly research team. So in order to we have 2 ways of seeing what the future will look like. And one is the expensive way. We can invest in Gartner's reports or stuff like that, or we can come up with our own research engines. So for example, again mentioning that we are a huge audit function, combined 3 companies. What we did was that since we had our own Facebook network in different companies, we used WhatsApp as a platform for all the auditors to be in the one group. And now what we do is that we have monthly, we have a research team on which all the 40-50 auditors are researching, and in their free time, for example, we talk about AI impact on audit. We talk about continuous auditing, and anything that we aspire to see what will be the impact on audit and how can we change our practices. We have a monthly research team, and different people throughout the group, throughout the week, throughout the months, continue to study different resources. They listen to TED Talks, they study the different websites, different resources, and then they post the selected important thing that they've come across on those research on those WhatsApp groups. From those WhatsApp groups, that WhatsApp group, we post those into our audit portal. That's something separate that I'll share with you. So, but these research themes, are our research engine for having a look into the future and how we need to transform. Then because as I mentioned earlier, that in the future I don't see a lot of room for just financial expert or just IT experts. We need to have data scientists. So what we're doing is that the data science trainings, a lot of them are free on the internet. You have Microsoft data science trainings and many more. So we're pushing all of our employees, be they financial auditors, be they IT auditors, that they need to have this data science mindset. And generally a person, if he or she does a good analysis, they think that no, we know what data science is. But when you enter into this line, then you come to know that we're just at the start. So we have identified different modules which we need to go through, each one of us, and it actually builds on our capabilities for the future. Then we have a weekly IA Talks program. It's like a internal TED Talk kind of a thing. So this I've been running in the past companies, whichever I work with. But when I joined this company as a CIA, so like having 45-50 different people at my disposal in 3 different companies, and from Islamabad to Karachi, people are traveling, and we have different offices, different locations. So how could we have these weekly talks which we used to have in one room earlier? So now we're using Zoom and the likes, or Microsoft Teams sometimes, even before COVID. So since December, we're using this. Now I would also like to share what is the significance of these talks. Being internal auditors, we are not really trained historically in being able to express ourselves very well. So the idea is to provide a platform for all the department people, right from the internees to the CIA, the department head, to speak on a topic of his or her choice after 1 week. We have a program once every week, and every individual. For the next quarter, we have a whole plan of who will be seeking on which topic, and the topic can be a technical skill, it can be a technology related topic, it can be a soft skill, it can be one of your life passions which you'd like to share over here. So it has been a very successful experiment, and it kind of helps bring in the research as well, and also it helps people bring in their capability to talk really. On the processes side, I already mentioned that we're IA certified. So all the people listening to this talk or webinar, they can think of how they can improve their quality. They don't necessarily need to be IA certified. It's a expensive proposition, but yes, they can always see what the international standards are. In fact, they must also always be doing this, and see that whether they're compliant, their practices are in line. If they're not IA certified, they should at least be IIA compliant. Then we have introduced theme-based reporting. Now, just a few words about this theme-based reporting. IIA Australia, the Institute of Internal Auditors Australia, in 2016 introduced this concept of theme-based reporting, which we've adopted. So we are one of the early adopters of theme-based reporting, and so we were initially talking about the value that we bring to the audit committee, if you remember. So I would like to show you how this actually works. So, for example, this is a sample of our reporting to the audit committee. So if you can see, we have 7 themes, and these themes have we've been refining these themes over time. So, for example, in a quarter or in a year, we show the audit committee. This is one of the audit committee slides, in which in the 7 different themes which are mapped with COSO framework, they are mapped with IT security and IT general controls, and on the governance side GRC, and also you can see on the left side the customer experience. So if any observation the internal audit is able to, so generally the internal audit reporting is structured in an audit report format, that in this audit report we found this, in this audit report we found this. It's not structured in a way to help the business or the board think, a holistic picture. For example, if some of your issues are impacting customer experience from different audits, you can pull them together to show what the chart looks like. So this is the theme-based reporting, and also the detailed reporting we show to the board. So it's also like this, that yeah, let me show you. Yeah, so like IT general controls, I'm not sure if you're able to see the screen, but the IT general controls, these are the issues. Business process management, these are the detailed issues. So application security, these are the issues. So this is how we actually show it to them. Then I'd like to move to the quarterly report. So this is our quarterly report. So when we go to the audit committee, we use a dashboard to report whatever we want to report. So just very briefly, if you can see, this is a sample dashboard. We show the KPIs that we've been achieving, the customer satisfaction score, which is a requirement of the best practices, that the clients, how the clients are rating us, how many investigations have we done, how many were established, how many audits, what were the ratings, how many investigations, whatever, and what is the movement of issues. So this is something, the point is to decrease the amount of text that you are using and increase the visuals. So I'd like to ask you, if I say the word strawberry, what comes to your mind? Strawberry. Does the English word STRAW, and the rest of it come to your mind, or you visualize the strawberry, the red color and the strawberry itself? So in 99% of the cases, you will say that the color or the strawberry actually came to our mind. So this is so because the human mind is stores information in pictures, and it's not friendly to text. So when we put a lot of text in the audit committee packs, it kind of puts a lot of strain on the audit committee members. So most of our reporting should be visual. We should not make them work out details. We should do this on our own. This is on the top right, you can see this is a visual of how our audit report looks like. So the themes actually start from the audit report and land into the board pack. Now then we have a concept of dashboards. We've introduced different dashboards to address different needs. For example, there might be some audit committee members needs who needs to be apprised on some particular issue. We have, for example, a monthly dashboard for disaster recovery, okay, to really focus on that. We have an audit committee chairman dashboard, a monthly dashboard. We have a so some of the pressing issues in the company which need more focus, and on which we as internal audit and the management is collaborating on a weekly basis or on a monthly basis. We simply set up a dashboard in which we put up all the things that the company is doing, all the high risk areas, and then in the form of visuals or charts or graphs, which you can see. These are just some of the sample dashboards. Even the fraud dashboard you can see on the left, in which we show what is the pattern of whistle blowing, from one quarter to the other. Are they going up? Are they coming down? What is the proportion of whistles blown which are proved to be true or otherwise? Which whistles are coming from which sources? From the management, from the employees, from anonymous, which are proved to what extent, and so all of these and different kinds of analysis are there in these dashboards. So the idea is to reduce lengthy, and this is in fact in addition to the audit reports, the controls that we've deployed. I'll move on to the system side because I do understand the time is ticking on, and this will be probably the second last slide, I hope. So the system, on the system side, we not every audit function needs to really have the highest quality or the best software. You can have different solutions. There are this is just a sample. You can have different solutions. It's not really necessary, but yes, if you have a proper solution, end-to-end audit solution, then it will decrease your inefficiencies, and it will allow your team to actually focus on the real things that value, rather than get being involved in the documentation only. Then we have I probably mentioned earlier that we have an internal portal for the auditors, in which we have launched the portal for only the domestic 2-3 companies right now, and then in the next quarter we're launching it for all the Etisalat group companies. And in the portal, actually what happens is that all our research from the monthly research themes, they land into our portal. All the trainings, all the weekly trainings that we impart, they land onto our portal. And all of, for example, our audit programs and all those things, and many other initiatives that we take from time to time, they land onto those portals. So these are sources of learnings as well. Okay, and then BI analytics. Yeah, so BI analytics, each audit function has to actually see what is the current capability of their analytics, because as I mentioned, conventional assurance is with time it will go away. So most of the things that we do which are repetitive, they will be done by AI and the likes. So so only the analysis role will continue to exist in the long run. So in order for us to survive on one hand, and on the other hand to really provide the value that the management or the board or the shareholders really require from us, we need to really improve our skills on the analytics side. So first of all, I'll give an example. It does not always mean that you need to purchase an expensive system, not at all. In many companies you have internal systems which for example data warehouses, which are repositories of huge amounts of data. I'll ask you that how many internal auditors generally access these data warehouses, and what is the frequency? For example, if they're, let's say, conducting 10 or 20 audits in a year, in how many audits do they leverage from this data that is there in the DWH? And if they do, how do they do it? They ask the IT department to, for example, for some information, which then comes in 2-3 weeks because they have to, configure that report or whatever. So how many audit functions actually are onto that DWH data warehouse or other similar systems, and are retrieving that data on a monthly basis? For example, in 2020, you have these audits. Do you know today what information is there in the data warehouse which would be relevant to your audits, which can be mapped right now instead of requesting at the time of the audits? So a lot of similar things. So SQL, and I think the time is running out, so I'll just jump on data science training. I've already discussed. So all of these put together, the technology side, when we strengthen ourselves on these sides, they enable us to prepare ourselves for the continuous auditing of the future. Other projects that we internally are doing, of course, I've talked about benchmarking. We have a clients portal as well. So the idea is that auditors generally do an exception reporting, because of which, generally whatever we report is almost some negative things. So the idea of having a clients portal, apart from many other things, we recognize the best cooperating department, the best practices which we see in one region, which we would like to replicate in the other region. We're not talking about audit, we're talking about the clients which we're auditing. So the good things that we see in audit during our audits, the good practices, we post them on these portals. The good insights that we make use of in our auditing, on our audit portals, at times we post them. By the way, these projects are in pipeline. These we've not launched. The earlier ones we've already launched. All of these have their own timelines, and they're planned in the future. Mobile app is also an ambitious program, although its value is questioned at times. The idea is to have, for the management to have things on a single click regarding, what is the audit plan, how many audits have been delivered, what is the schedule, when are the next audits planned, at what stage are different audits, and also the points that they need to implement, what is the status, where are they lagging behind, stuff like that. We also have a newsletter, quarterly newsletter planned ahead of us, and then different things. So I think I've taken a lot of time. I would move to my closing thoughts. These, whatever I mentioned over here, these are just examples. I mean, the point is that the auditor needs to, as internal auditors, we need to be mindful of the need for change. And each company, each function, and each CIA has to think on its own. What kind of changes do they think they need to bring in to address the challenges of the future? So where we are today is based on whatever we did in the past 10 years. So what we invested in our careers in the past 10 years brought us to the point where we are today. Where we'll be in the next 10 years will be what we do today. So it's really important to understand that the rate of change that we've seen in the past 10 years would not remain the same at all. And would replicate, is actually replicating, and we may be talking about this later in a panel discussion or so, because the time is short right now. So the next point that I want to make for the closure is that it is not only our own investments that has brought us over here. If we think for a moment and pause, our efforts on one side, but there have been a lot of silent efforts on our back. So when we were juniors, when we had joined the profession, even before that, the contribution of our parents, our teachers, our mentors has actually made us, enabled us to reach the position we are right now. Many people on the streets are more talented than us, but they did not get the opportunity. The point is that wherever we are now, one of us may think that, let's say I have just 10 years more till retirement, 15 years more till retirement, because most of the CIAs or the senior people, we're generally, maybe in their 40s or 50s or whatever. But the point is, it's not only, we don't only think of ourselves that if we don't transform now, I'll be able to pull along for the next 5-10 years, I guess. No, the point is, what I'm today, I'm because of the efforts of the people in the past. And what I do today will actually form the basis of successful careers of the people joining my department in the future. Because, it's extremely important to understand that the rate of change, when we say it will be different in the future, it is different actually. And when we say that in the next 10 years, 80% of the jobs would not be there, what it means is that the people actually joining our functions today would actually be into a big challenge in 5 to 10 years from now. It is our responsibility as leaders, as professionals, to first of all understand this challenge, understand that it is real. Do not, think of it as COVID, like many other people have been thinking that maybe it's a hoax or it's a reality. And when people started dying, then they understand that it's a reality. So we need to understand that it's a reality. People are going to lose jobs, and we need to prepare them for the future in terms of training, skills, technologies, whatever, today, so that not only that we are able to address the needs of the audit committee and the management, but we are also able to secure, a respected position for the internal audit profession in the times to come. So with this, yes, I would like to close that, we need to think that what will be our legacy in this regard. How shall we be remembered in the future after a retirement or whenever? How would our successors, our juniors, remember us? Because the transformation lines we push them on today will actually define their success in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shahid. It was very thrilling and very important. It was very much value addition to all of us to learn and come across these new things that you have shared with us. And of course, we very well picked up on you that you were very much focused on transformation and the way things would shape for the people who are following our footsteps. Indeed, we are blessed to have our seniors who laid the foundation for us in this profession, and the privilege and the respect that our profession commands. We are beneficiary of the hard work that our seniors put in, and we have to be cognizant of the fact that those who are following our footsteps, we have a responsibility towards them as well, to give them a legacy to be proud of and to compound upon that and build new futures. Yes, we all very much agree to this thing that the change is rapid and it is either self-inflicted or it is driven by the environment. The recent trends that have emerged for subsequent to the COVID, it has forced world to rely on and feel the importance of the digitization and working from home, and of course the way things can be monitored remotely. As we all know, World Economic Forum has already said that the role of accountants would be shrinking moving forward in next 15, 20 years. Given that fact, the importance of governance, offline support, and of course the criticality of the things, how they are monitored and evaluated, they will all enhance and will increase the role of the internal audit, the governance, and those who supervise all those activities. With this, I would once again like to thank you for a very valuable presentation and contribution that you had made. Now, moving on to the second part of our today's plan, that is
My
the panel
pleasure.
discussion. And I am very much privileged to have such an august panel, which in total has more than 100 years of experience. And it's my privilege to introduce to you Talat Javed Saab, Mohammad Farooq Wasi, and Amir Afzal Rana Saab, senior most being Talat Javed Saab. He is a fellow member of our institute. He served in the state-owned insurance corporation as internal head audit for the Multan region, as the CFO and company secretary of a listed company of Ghee Corporation of Pakistan for 12 years. He has been in public practice for 30 years as a sole proprietor. He served as partner of Grant Thornton International, Deloitte Yusuf Adil, and retired in 2016. Presently, he is the managing partner for Chinwing Hamid Chaudhary and Co Multan office, and he's also served at the Northern Regional Committee of the Institute. Tell sir, it's an honor to have you here, sir. Next, I have Mr. Amir Afzal Rana, a very seasoned professional. Rana Saab is a fellow member of ICAP and a member of SEMA UK, ICMAP, Institute of Internal Auditor, US of A, PMI, US of A. He is a 20 plus year experience in audit, governance, risk management, strategic planning, financial management, reporting, business expansion, and people management. He also has extensive experience in development and implementing policies, procedures, systems, and controls for both financial and operational areas. His professional experience spreads over manufacturing, engineering, estate development, construction, education, energy, trading sectors. He is currently associated with Beacon House Group as Group Head System Audits. Then next I have another our seasoned professional and a very common value addition to our young professionals is Mr. Mohammad Farooq Wasi, fellow member of the Institute, as well as a certified internal auditor from the Institute of Internal Auditors, USFA. He's a seasoned professional with over 15 years of experience in auditing. He's presently operating as Group Head, Audit and Risk Assets Review at MCB Bank Limited. He's passionate motivational speaker and has spoken at various conferences in past, particularly about creativity and innovation. Apart from diet soda and milk chocolate, Farooq loves to read and tell stories that can positively change one's mindset and keep the hope, which is everything alive, which keeps everything alive. One thing that is common about my August panel is that they all add value. And today, what we are all benefiting is from the experiences and the value addition that our seniors have done. To start with the discussion formally, my senior most panelist, Talat Javed Sab. Sir, my first question that we have from our valued participants is with reference to your thoughts on how internal auditor shall re-examine their views of internal audit from a pure control function to one that actively participates in development of an organization. So it's quite
Thank you,
forward-looking for an
Jazib.
organization. You are
Thank you,
kind, you sir.
Jazib Amin Saab. Can you hear me?
G, we can very well, you sir, please.
Internal audit transformation refers to a change in the mindset. That internal audit not only points out errors, omissions, and discrepancies in the system, but also take measures to ensure that such discrepancies do not arise. The internal audit function is now required to emerge as an effective part of management, to actively participate in policy making, guiding audit committee, mapping the expectation gaps, and timely informing the audit committee and higher authorities that not complying with certain suggestions may result into loss of business and credibility. The present image of Chief Internal Audit, CIA, as I have just heard Mr. Shahid Abbas Rizvi, and I think that transformation has come into process. The present image is not only the error finder and one who periodically proposes the corrective measures in the reports, which are taken seriously at inception, but with the passage of time becomes stereotype exercise and not taken seriously. The internal audit, by his hard work and prudent advice, has to win the confidence of management, to make them realize that he is an effective tool so far as the development of organization is concerned.
Thank you very much, sir. We have some really passionate participant and audience pouring in their questions. Talat, next one is also towards you, sir. If you could kindly guide us a little bit on this thing. Internal auditing calls for a diverse set of knowledge, skills, and experience. It is critical that the internal audit staff have the skills, industry knowledge, and experience to provide control assurance. How does the internal audit get and maintain the expertise needed to conduct internal audit assignments?
Basically, there is no shortcut and scientific formula as to how the internal audit get and maintain the expertise to conduct internal audit assignments. This can only be done by hard work and polishing the skills of the internal audit staff. There is a need that internal audit staff, when inducted, should spend a reasonable time in various departments to understand the process and take industry knowledge. Appropriate courses, on-job training, internal audit staff needs to be arranged for improvement of their skills. The internal audit team should master on analyzing quantitative production accounts in manufacturing concerns and counter-checking various informations, maintenance of order level and economic order quantity in store accounting needs to be examined periodically. Similarly, through verification of cash and bank balances, bank reconciliations, they may unearth many errors, omissions, and even fraudulent activity. So they have to work on assignments, work on job.
Thank you very much, sir. Moving on to Amir Sab. Amir Sab, thank you very much for your time. And given your broad set of experience and the skill set that you have, there's a question for you that stakeholders expect an increase in the role of internal audit, activity in training audit committee members, and advisory role in strategy development, as well as the educational role for organizational personnel. Sir, how can the internal audit department manage such expectations on these three multiple forums? Fronts, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jasib. Very pertinent question, keeping in view the background of this webinar today. As very well elaborated by Shahid Saab in his presentation, that there are certain things which are dependent upon the kind of organization the internal audit is working for, the type of organization and the sort of audit committee and the role that is given to the internal audit department for that organization. Now, there could be 4 or 5 types of organizations as far as their nature of expansion and their nature of business is concerned: listed companies, unlisted companies, private companies owned by family or owned by a diversified shareholding. So keeping in view what nature of organization we are dealing with, training of audit committee, role of internal audit in training and providing a sort of consulting service to the audit committee becomes quite diversified. First of all, the formation of that audit committee needs to be considered. The TORs which are relevant to that committee, the type of members which are sitting in that committee, and the expertise level which they already have. If they are certified directors in it, the situation could be a bit different. But if the committee is formed through a diversified sort of persons who don't have financial expertise to that level, then the situation could be a little different. As far as my own experience is concerned, which I learned from various organizations which I have worked for since last 20 years, one of the most important things which internal audit can contribute towards audit committee is to advise and suggest the sort of information which is relevant for decision making as far as that organization and nature of that business is concerned. Internal auditor can have a very primary role in it, finding the set of information and ensuring that the timeliness and accuracy and reliability of that information is there. Second, the second part of your question, that how can internal auditor be part of strategic decision making? Now, a very thin line actually needs to be drawn between independence, ensuring independence, and adding value. The new concept, which is emerging all across the globe, is to consider internal auditor as part of senior management, which was not present 15, 20 years back. Now, the concept of being a part of senior management, a sort of diversified role emerges out of it. On one side, independence of internal audit function needs to be assured. And on the other side, as Shaisab very well elaborated, that the consulting part in decision making, that can be managed quite reasonably while ensuring the independence is also there. So as a consultant, in the role of a consultant, when strategic decision making is in the process, internal audit can always add value into it. Sitting in the committees, sitting in the management meetings, both as observer and as part of monitoring team, this function can be handled quite vigilantly. Third part, as trainer of employees, trainer of different facets of organization, you see the overall control environment counts a lot as far as compliance and other functions of internal audit are concerned. Keeping a trust level, having a relationship with the auditor, and inculcating good values as far as the organization's own corporate ethics are concerned and core values are concerned, internal auditor can very well have different sessions, trainings, indirect methods to infiltrate all these traits within different departments of organization, within different hierarchies, within different, you can say, facets of the hierarchy, organizational hierarchy. So this role becomes very important, very forward-looking as far as this transformation phase is concerned in this sort of environment.
Thank you, Amir Sahab. There is another question for you. Participants are interested in highlighting that the role of internal audit activity in risk management. And of course, the governance will continue to increase and become accepted from perspective when internal audit practitioners as the two most important cornerstones. How can internal audit department and risk management department mutually coordinate?
Well, again, it
That's the
depends.
future.
It mainly depends upon the nature of organization. There are certain organizations which have these two different functions, risk management and internal audit. The situation will be different in that case, where they have to collaborate. Collaboration has become a very sort of jargon in these coming days, that different cross-functional exercises need to be conducted. As far as ensuring that a proper risk management function is present in the organization, it is basically one of the prime responsibilities of an audit function, where the situation is that there are two different departments. Collaboration and coordination are the key words to move forward. And in certain cases, where risk management, independent function of risk management is not there, and primarily overall financial management and operational management are process owners of risk management. In that case, internal audit can actually move one step forward and practically participate in all those activities as far as the risk framework is concerned, making a policy toward risk management, and even on some steps in implementation side too. And once proper risk management ERM function is implemented, it becomes wholly in the ambit of internal audit to keep examining and keep monitoring whether it is functioning in the right direction and keeping in view the changing environment, whatever improvements are required or whatever changes are required, either these are being taken care of or not. So two different situations and two different roles of internal audit department.
Thank you, Amir sir. Now coming on to Farooq. This is
Sir,
a story about technology and big data. So we thought
technology
that
and big data.
yeah, we thought that it would be something in future, but perhaps it has come very much into our life already. And post-COVID, the things have changed. The world has not stopped. It has just changed its dimension. So the modern industry has shifted its focus towards visualization and analysis of big data. How do you suggest the internal auditors utilize early warning analytics and continuous auditing techniques for digital dashboards for conducting quality and risk-based audits?
जाकिर अली बहुत से सवालात so पहले तो I would want to acknowledge the presentation that was made by Shahid Saab. Honestly, I believe Shahid Saab has really elaborated the concept of continuous auditing and the role of technology in his presentation. Nevertheless, a few things that I would like to add. So internal audit ने shift किया है from routine tech-based checklist-based approach towards more of an ongoing engagement, जहाँ पे there is an ongoing risk assessment and ongoing evaluation. Continuous auditing plays a very significant role in achieving this objective. Now, risk-based auditing में सब लोग जानते हैं, the participants and they are also aware of it कि हम sample of transactions, sample of population के ऊपर से काम करते हैं. Data analytics naturally helps you in getting a comfort on the entire population. Now, the data is becoming really big, as they say, and big data जो आपने term बताई है, 2012 में New York Times में पहली बार ये term इस्तेमाल हुई थी. And ever since then, the quantum of data is increasing. For the interest of the audience, और मुझे भी इधर insightful लगा था, 2018 के आखिर तक, the quantum of data that has been generated in the world, that amounts to like 18 zettabytes, 18 zettabytes. Zettabyte क्या इसकी बाद में कहता हूँ. 2020 के end पे, this data will amount to 44 zettabytes. And 2025 से आखिर तक ये 125 zettabyte पे चला जाएगा. एक zettabyte अगर आप एक DVD के ऊपर सेव कर दें, तो दुनिया के 22 चक्कर लगेंगे तो 125 उन DVD का स्टैक आप दुनिया के गिर्द घुमाएं, तो 125 zettabyte will amount to 22 चक्कर of the दुनिया. एक zettabyte में कोई 21 सिफर होता है. This is the math part of it. You see, your every interaction with the computer or with your phone is creating the data. अच्छा चैलेंजेस अब क्या आते हैं, मतलब दिस इज अ नो ब्रेनर कि इंटरनल ऑडिटर को डेटा इस्तेमाल करना, हर एक को पता है। हम लोग आर्टिकल्स में वो ग्लोबले बनाते होते थे, आज भी बनाते होंगे, आई एम श्योर एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट के अंदर लोग इंटरनल ऑडिट में भी बनाते हैं, वो आउट हो जाती है, परेशानी अलग होती है, मैं उस गम का जिक्र नहीं करना चाह रहा। So external, so you see this data analytics is very old into our profession. अब चैलेंज क्या आता है? पहली बात तो ये है कि डेटा एट टाइम्स आपको उस फॉर्म में मिलता ही नहीं। तो उसके लिए वो BI टूल्स जिनका शायद साहब ने जिक्र किया, यू नीड टू हैव दोज टूल्स, देन यू नीड टू हैव दोज इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स जो कि कन्वीनियंटली उन टूल्स का इस्तेमाल कर सकें। फिर एट टाइम्स you don't, the data is being generated but it's not being stored. For example, अक्सर आपने देखा होगा कि ऑडिट लॉग स्टोर नहीं हो रही होती। नाउ लॉग, ऑडिट लॉग्स आर रियली इंपॉर्टेंट, दे टेल यू कौन सी ट्रांजैक्शन में किसने क्या रोल प्ले किया। सो इफ यू आर डूइंग एन इन्वेस्टिगेशन और इफ यू आर जस्ट चेकिंग कि ये गलती किससे हुई है, क्या मसला कहाँ पे आया, so that helps you in identifying. So अगर हमारे पास राइट BI टूल्स हैं एंड इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स का माइंडसेट हम शिफ्ट कर पाते हैं फ्रॉम द चेकलिस्ट बेस्ड अप्रोच, क्योंकि ऑल ऑफ अस हैव बीन ट्रेन्ड, बट अब जो नई जनरेशन जिस तरह से आ रही है, so I believe they are more tech savvy and they are more into this analytics के ऊपर, और डेटा के टूल्स भी अब ज्यादा अवेलेबल है एज कम्पेयर टू 20 साल पहले के। तो अगर वो अवेलेबल है तो आई बिलीव अगर if someone is ignoring the big data, then he or she will end up into big trouble. So to cut the long story short, I know of an organization, data science training का जिक्र किया था शायद साहब ने, so I know of an organization where they have practically hired a data scientist because the volume of the data is so much that they want a data scientist to analyze it for the routine internal audit team. That person is not an internal auditor, he or she is going to translate that data, develop those relationships and tell the internal auditors कि अब इसको देखो। So this is going to be the future, sir. जितनी डिजिटलाइजेशन हो रही है दुनिया में, उसके बाद यकीनन we should be eyeing and we should be capable. और IAA के एक recent article में मैं पढ़ रहा था कि कोविड के अंदर उन्होंने लिखा हुआ था कि इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स के क्या ट्रेट्स होने चाहिए। So one of the required traits is that the internal auditors should be comfortable in the analysis of data. So I believe there is a lot of room in it, sir. Or good luck to the auditors who are using it actually. I hope that answers.
Farooq, you continue to be influencing and convincing, but our audience want to have much of you. And the next one for you is that the leading internal audit organizations are taking a risk-based approach to their role as an independent auditor with a view towards value creation. Now that's something new. Value creation, internal audit can expand both its views beyond finance and across other aspects of COSO. Your views, because you're also with the financial institution, so COSO framework, how can it help in effective evaluation of prevalent internal controls within the entity? Bringing in COSO.
जी बिल्कुल ठीक है जी, COSO, yes exactly, COSO. So internal audit, जैसे कि you rightly pointed out, internal auditors, if they are to add value to the organization, the coverage has to go beyond the accounts, the DL, the finance function. COSO, all of us are aware, is one of the internal control frameworks, and that is one of the most widely used internal control frameworks. Primarily, the purpose, I mean, just briefly touching upon COSO, the prime purpose is it helps the businesses and the organizations in assessing and improving the internal control system. If you look at the 5 pillars, मतलब सबको पता ही है उन 5 pillars क्या, but मैं याद करके अभी आया हूँ, तो I'll just tell you, it begins with the control environment, which is the tone at the top actually. So अब आपने देखना ये है कि वो 5 pillars का अगर आपको इल्म होता जा रहा है, तो you put yourself, you are an internal auditor and you put yourself into the shoes of the internal auditor and you know about the control environment. And then you know कि अदारे में risk assess किस तरीके से हो रहा है, how are we identifying, how is the अदारे serious in identifying the risk. Then control activities, what is the adara doing in addressing those risks. फिर what controls are there with respect to the MIS generation, जो आपने सारा काम किया उसकी reporting within the organization, outside the organization, how is it being managed. And lastly, what is being done by that institute to monitor the overall control system. So अगर एक internal auditor, so in order to review all these 5 pillars, so the internal auditor has to move out of the finance, and of course the finance function will come into play जब जहाँ पे भी उसका जिक्र आएगा information and communication policy या control activities में आएगा, but nevertheless आपको पूरे अदारे का एक landscape देखना पड़ेगा, My personal experience with COSO documentation, because we in our bank have implemented the COSO internal control framework. So my personal experience is that if you go through a COSO documentation of any business process, that gives you a complete 360-degree view of the entire transaction end to end. शुरू से लेके आखिर तक आपको सारा पता चलता है कि ट्रांजेक्शन इनिशिएशन से आखिर तक चल किस तरह रही है. And along the way आपको ये पता चलता है कि what is the risk and control mapping that has been done. And those RCMs, the risk control matrices or the risk control mapping that is developed, they form a very valuable input, and that has been our case actually. That proves to be very much valuable when you develop your audit program. So that is really helpful. Understanding the COSO and implementing it and translating into your internal audit processes. If you belong to that lucky organization that has adopted any internal control framework, COCO है, COSO है, कोई भी किया है, तो my क्या कहना चाहिए नाकिस राय में मेरी, you as an internal auditor should read that documentation and you should utilize that documentation when you're doing your audit. क्योंकि key controls क्या है, non key क्या है, you can वो उसकी वजह से आप बेहतर resource allocation भी कर. बाकी COSO is a complete topic sir. इतने मुख्तसर टाइम में मेरे ख्याल में अभी इतनी बात कर लेते हैं and मतलब हम बाकी जो सवालात हैं उसकी तरफ चलते हैं मेरे ख्याल में.
Point well taken, Farooq. Of course, we understand that from the people at the top, and as you said, tone at the top, they would like organization as a whole to succeed. So I mean, they would not want any one department to flourish at the cost of other, because when they are accountable for organization as a whole, they would like it to grow as a whole. Thank you very much for your value addition. Now I think Shahid Abbas Rizvi is back with us, and after a very well-deserved water break, with an excellent presentation. Shahid bhai, let me tell you, you have hundreds of fans now. You have made in past 1 hour or so, and there are so many questions pouring on for you. The first one that we have for you is that internal audit practices have come a long way, but not without their fair share of challenges. In the face of emerging competition, spiraling cost structures, integrated global economies, new technologies, and changing financial instruments, internal audit has often failed to keep up the pace. How can the present internal audit function address the situation? It's a happening and changing world.
It's a very complex question as well. They put everything in it, I guess. Complexity of the world is, yes, changing every now and then. And the cost pressures and what you actually mentioned, or ये सारी चीजें तो अपनी जगह पे हैं. Point is कि the auditor needs to have a mindset where the auditor is not just focused on these problems. मसलन के costs का मतलब the auditor should not be focused on the limitations always. The auditor should be someone, auditor of tomorrow should be someone who is a solution provider, not a solution seeker. मतलब कि उसको, for example, हम कहें कि हमारे I also mentioned in my presentation that all the departments are fighting for costs, for resources. All companies are fighting for capex, group companies. So the auditor has to demonstrate by the value he creates that the resources should be awarded to that function. Now, ये cost की अपने challenges की बात की, if we remain too focused on this, we won't be able to focus on the value that we need to give. And for that value, it's the horse or the cart कि पहले कौन सा है कि जी नहीं पहले मुझे resources मिलेंगे, मुझे एक platform मिलेगा, मुझे फलाना मिलेगा, मुझे इतने resource मिलेंगे तो मैं करूँगा. नहीं, I think whatever resources we have, we need to start thinking differently. As auditors, we need to change our mindset, and then the focus will change, the objective will change, and then a different set of products will start coming. मैं एक मिसाल देता हूँ आपको कि all of us जब हम digitalization की बात करते हैं तो all of us need of course softwares, we need platforms, we need different kinds of subscriptions, payments वगैरह. जिस तरह से हमने किया, I'll just quote a couple of examples. So on the software side, मतलब continuous auditing is a very advanced concept. उसको तो आप छोड़ ही देना. लेकिन even if you don't have a basic software, there are a lot of free tools available to all companies, all audit functions, which you can leverage in गिविंग वैल्यू. फॉर एग्जांपल आपके पास कंपनी के अंदर सॉफ्टवेयर छोटे मोटे बेसिक हैं, एक्सेल है, एसक्यूएल है, यू कैन लेवरेज दोज टू फॉर बेसिक जो एनालिटिक्स आपने करनी है. जब आप उसको लेवरेज करके एक पॉइंट पे पहुंच जाते हैं, मैनेजमेंट को कोई ऐसे एनालिसिस देते हैं कि इससे आगे आपको टूल्स चाहिए, तो फिर आपको वो मसलन कॉस्ट में कोई कंसिडर किया जाता है. इसी तरह मैं मिसाल दूं ट्रेनिंग्स के हवाले से. ट्रेनिंग्स आप कहते हो कि जी मुझे ये ट्रेनिंग चाहिए, वो ट्रेनिंग चाहिए, मेरे बंदों को ये ट्रेनिंग चाहिए. I mentioned in my presentation, and that was the point we made actually, कि wasn't all the data science trainings and all the AI and IoT whatever are free there on the net. So the point I'm trying to make is, मैं इसकी एक मिसाल इस तरह से दूं, and these are free trainings by the way. मसलन माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की वेबसाइट पे आप चले जाएं तो जितनी क्रिटिकल ट्रेनिंग्स आपको चाहिए, जो अभी ये मौजूदा गवर्नमेंट भी हमारी पाकिस्तान में वो कर रही है यूथ के लिए, वो सारी की सारी वहाँ फ्री पड़ी हुई है. अच्छा, वो फ्री क्यों है? फ्री इसलिए है, इसकी मिसाल मैं आपको देता हूँ. 1940s में दुनिया में बहुत कम गाड़ियां होंगी, तो मसलन एक कार मैन्युफैक्चरर है जो कहती है आए जी हमसे फ्री गाड़ी चलाना सीखें, फ्री ट्रेनिंग है. लोग कहें यार ये फ्री क्यों दे रहे हैं, इनका जितना रिसोर्स लग रहा है. वो फ्री इसलिए दे रहे हैं कि जब आप गाड़ी चलाना सीखेंगे तो गाड़ी खरीदेंगे भी, ठीक है ना. तो बात ये है कि डेटा का एक रेवोल्यूशन आ रहा है, एक एक्सप्लोजन है. लेकिन पॉइंट ये कि जैसे अभी फारूक साहब ने भी कहा कि वो किसी कंपनी ने डेटा साइंटिस्ट हायर किया, अभी बहुत ज्यादा, हमें तो बहुत ज्यादा डेटा साइंटिस्ट, हर बंदा जो हम हायर कर रहा है हमें डेटा साइंटिस्ट कैपेबिलिटी के साथ चाहिए. लेकिन बात ये है कि अब वो द लाइक्स ऑफ माइक्रोसॉफ्ट एंड गूगल और ये लोग क्यों फ्री ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं? इसलिए दे रहे हैं कि दुनिया में सबसे ज्यादा जॉब्स अभी डेटा साइंटिस्ट की निकल रही हैं और वो सप्लाई पूरी नहीं पड़ रही, और फ्यूचर में जो एक्सप्लोजन आने वाला है उसके हिसाब से तो यानी बिल्कुल को तैयारी है. तो दे आर प्रोवाइडिंग दीज फ्री ट्रेनिंग. लेकिन हमारा बंदा है वो एक डिग्री लेके आ जाता है जॉब के लिए, जब आप उसको हायर करना चाहते हैं आप कहते हैं आपको ये भी नहीं आता, ये भी नहीं आता. जबकि वो अगर 6 महीने साल, मैं अक्सर लोगों को ये कहता हूँ आप भाई अनएम्प्लॉयड हो, आप ये क्रिएट होने की कोशिश करो, ये करो वो करो, मसलन कोई नहीं करता. तो आई डोंट नो, मतलब पीपल वांट टू जस्ट अर्न द जॉब, जबकि आजकल अगर आपको जॉब मिल भी गई तो कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि 2 साल 3 साल के बाद वो रहेगी नहीं रहेगी, क्योंकि थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग. People don't understand कि degree does not earn you a job, your skills do. तो you need to, all of this is free online. तो मैं ये बात कर रहा हूँ कि एज ऑडिटर्स भी आपको ये नहीं करना चाहिए मैनेजमेंट के पास एक विश लिस्ट लेके चले जाओ कि यार मुझे ये ट्रेनिंग करा दो, मुझे वो सॉफ्टवेयर चाहिए. नहीं, आपके पास हर चीज फ्री चाहिए. बल्कि आजकल तो बात की जाती है कि जो स्पाइंग और एस्पियोनाज है 80% अब ऑनलाइन होती है. मतलब वो एक जमाना था पुराने जमाने की KGB और वो सारी बातें होती थी. अब तो सब कुछ ओपन सोर्स है, यानी कि हर चीज ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है, फेसबुक है, सब कुछ उस पर पड़ा हुआ है. तो इसी तरह से मोस्ट ऑफ द ट्रेनिंग्स, और इसी तरह से मैं शायद अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन में मिसाल दी थी कि कोई भी सोल्यूशन आपको चाहिए, कोई भी सोल्यूशन चाहिए, फ्री वेरिएंट इज आउट देयर, ठीक है ना. आप यू जस्ट थिंक ऑफ इट एंड इट्स देयर. मसलन मुझे मैंने वो मेंशन किया था, हम ट्रेनिंग्स कराते हैं, अब हम अक्रॉस द कंट्री लोग होते हैं, ट्रैवल कर रहे होते हैं, वो ट्रेनिंग्स अटेंड करते हैं उसमें. अच्छा, फिर उसमें हम जब मंथली रिसर्च टीम्स लॉन्च करते हैं उसके बाद हम फिर एक क्विज भी करते हैं. मसलन मंथ के बाद जब हमने कहा एक रिसर्च हमने कर ली, अच्छा चलो क्विज हम कैसे करते हैं, वो उसका अलग टूल है, वो कहूट वगैरह है, और भी एप्लीकेशंस हैं. इट मेक्स इट वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. गेम सिनेरियो में आपका वो क्विज होता है और सब लोग पार्टिसिपेट करते हैं, और फिर वो अच्छा 5वां क्वेश्चन हो गया, अच्छा कौन टॉप पे आ रहा है, 6वां क्वेश्चन है कौन टॉप, गेम फॉर्मेट में, सारा फ्री है. मेरा मतलब कहने का है कि ऑडिटर्स नीड टू स्टार्ट थिंकिंग डिफरेंटली. एवरीथिंग इज आउट देयर, एवरीथिंग इज फ्री. दे नीड टू बी द सॉल्यूशन प्रोवाइडर्स रादर देन द सॉल्यूशन सीकर्स. तो ये मेरा ख्याल है कि जो चैलेंजेस हैं उनको इस तरह से चैलेंजेस के तौर पे ना देखें, बल्कि हर चीज पड़ी हुई है. यू नीड टू ओपन अप एंड यू नीड टू, if you think that you don't know about these things, then you need to ask the younger people. मैं एक आखिरी बात करता हूँ, उसको क्लोज करता हूँ. हमारी जो सेल्युलर कंपनीज है उनमें ये बड़ी प्रैक्टिस हो रही है कि जो चूंकि डेटा का एक रेवोल्यूशन है, और ये डेटा रेवोल्यूशन किसी ने नहीं देखा हुआ. जो लोग ऊपर बैठे हुए हैं, जो चीफ ऑफिसर्स हैं या VPs हैं या मार्केट मतलब GMs हैं व्हाटएवर, इन सबको ये चीजें नहीं आती. इन सब लोगों ने ये पढ़े पढ़ाई नहीं है, ये नई चीज है. व्हाट दे आर डूइंग इज दैट दे आर हायरिंग यंग पीपल विदाउट एनी एक्सपीरियंस एंड दे आर लर्निंग फ्रॉम देम. जितना डेटा का और नीड है, डिमांड्स हैं, किस तरह की प्रोडक्ट चाहिए, क्या होना चाहिए, क्या प्रोडक्ट बनाऊं, ये सारा का सारा यंग लोग बता रहे हैं. ये लीडरशिप लोग अब नीचे से आ रही है, ऊपर से नहीं आ रही. इसी तरह से अगर हम एक CIA हैं या हम कोई लीडर हैं इंटरनल डिपार्टमेंट के, वी डोंट नीड टू नो एवरीथिंग. बल्कि वो ये कहा जाता है कि यू डोंट नीड टू नो ऑल द आंसर्स, यू नीड टू आस्क द राइट क्वेश्चंस. So knowledge is about knowing the answers. Intelligence is about asking the right questions. So if we are intelligent, we ask the right questions and people come in. And जैसे मैं आपको बता रहा था कि हम लोग रिसर्च करवा रहे हैं, हम लोगों को कोई प्रॉब्लम होता है हम उसको उस पर डाल देते हैं. 50 बंदा रिसर्च कर रहा, तो उसमें से 20 भी अगर पोस्ट करता है, दो तीन आर्टिकल्स, 2-3 टेड टॉक्स, तो हमारे पास एक बड़ा वो जखीरा आ जाता है जिसमें से हम निकालते हैं अच्छा अब ये क्या है. गाटर भी आ जाता है, हर चीज आ जाती है। तो वो उसके लिए कोई जरूरी नहीं है कि आप बहुत कोई पैसा खर्च करें। तो हर चीज के लिए मेरे ख्याल में फ्री सॉल्यूशंस मौजूद है। और जब आप अपने आप को डेमोस्ट्रेट करते हैं, आप अपनी वैल्यू के ऑडिट को वहां पे ले आते हैं कि आप मैनेजमेंट को डेमोस्ट्रेट कर सकें कि इधर से आगे हमें फलाना खर्चा करना है, उधर मैनेजमेंट आपको पैसे देगी।
Thank you, Shahid. Very rightly said, and of course, one thing that we picked from your discussion is that we should not be talking about the limitations. If we look around, there are opportunities and options available that can add perhaps more value to what we are looking for. Shahid, next thing that we have for you is with reference to VOCA. Of course, हमारे diversified membership है, जो stakeholders हैं. That is a managerial acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It conflates four distinct types of challenges that demand four distinct types of responses. Your views on how an effective internal audit function can identify and address each challenge that is specified in VOCA: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
अब ये तो अगेन कॉम्प्लेक्स क्वेश्चन है, मतलब ये चार डिफरेंट चीजें हैं और हर एक को कैसे हम डिफरेंट रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे। सो इंस्टेड ऑफ एड्रेसिंग ईच वन ऑफ इट सेपरेटली, holistically I would say कि we need to first define the problem. Yeah, so the extent of problem, how big is the challenge. तो कुछ तो मेरे ख्याल फारूक साहब ने बड़ा वो डेटा ग्रोथ और बिग डेटा के वाले से काफी रेलेवेंट चीजें शेयर की थी। एक चीज मैं शेयर करना चाहूंगा, वो इसमें रेलेवेंट वो ये है ताकि हम एक्सटेंट ऑफ चैलेंज को पहले समझ सकें, फिर हम देखें कि हमने उसको कैसे रिजॉल्व करना है। तो फर्स्ट थिंग इज दैट आई थिंक last year, somewhere towards the end of last year, we heard about quantum computing. Quantum computing का concept बहुत पुराना है, but Google for the first time demonstrated, successfully operating a quantum computing December में probably last year उन्होंने किया था, and the results show, आप Google कर सकते हैं उसको, quantum computing Google लिखें आप, आपको पता लग जाएगा कि the fastest supercomputer in today's world, fastest supercomputer by any country, China, Japan, US, whatever, the calculation that it would do in 10,000 years can be done through a quantum computer in 200 seconds. So it's मैं बाज़ लोगों से पूछता हूँ कि आपको पता है क्वांटम कंप्यूटिंग कितनी फास्ट है, तो वो कहते हैं 5 गुना 100 गुना, मैक्सिमम मैंने 100 या 1000, किसी ने तुक्का मार दिया 1000। तो बेसिकली इट्स 1 million times faster than the current supercomputer, 1 million times. तो बात ये है, अभी जो फारूक साहब ने बोला था ना कि the extent of data explosion, जो zeta bytes की वो बात कर रहे थे, that is based on the current computing power and resources. Now as the quantum computing and the likes come in, this will be a different thing totally. तो इसलिए our conventional roles of any professional will not exist. और तो अच्छा, अब ये having said that, coming to the solution, अब इसका दो पार्ट हो सकते हैं। यू सी, एक तो ऑडिटर का रोल क्या है। ऑडिटर का रोल इन अ वोका वर्ल्ड, वी कैन ईदर पार्टनर विद ईआरएम टू, क्योंकि रिस्क को मॉनिटर करना या मसलन मेजर करना, मैनेज करना विद मॉनिटरिंग, इट्स देयर रोल। वी कैन ईदर पार्टनर विद देम टू अंडरस्टैंड द रिस्क एंड देन सी हाउ वी रिस्पॉन्ड, और which is the easier thing to do or the right thing to do or conventional thing. The other thing, if we want to see, आपका जो question था कि how we can respond, is to be able to come up with something that even the management does not have. So for that we need to think differently. मसलन हम अभी quantum computers की बात करते हैं, super computers की, तो I'll give you an example. The third world countries, most of them do not afford to buy a supercomputer. Most of them don't have supercomputer, but they do have needs. They have their nuclear needs and different needs, So the way they work out their supercomputer is by they call it a grid model. यानी कि grid, or they have other words. यानी the point is to have, like, if you join 100 small computers, you would enhance the computing power, right? If you don't have a supercomputer, you can build a replica sort of by, let's say, joining 500 different strong computers that you already have, right? तो मकसद कहने का कि अगर आपके पास वो चीज नहीं है तो आप अपनी कोई चीज बना लो। So I gave you an example of the research engine that we created in PTCL group, that Like we had 50 different people and 3 different companies. So we use WhatsApp as a platform, and that is we're using as a research engine. Although it's just a start, we have just done a couple of rounds, yeah, but it's an excellent platform. Each month we research on a different topic, and so many different credible pieces of information come in, which we can then process. So the point is that either we can patch up with the ERM function to because and take a back seat, or we move to the front and think of different solutions on our own कि हम कैसे ये काम कर सकते हैं. तो दोनों तरह से हो सकता है. But the point is that there is no single solution. The point is that auditors need to continue to wear the auditing hat, but they need to they need to think differently. I mean, it's not always that others. It's not always that others would come up with new solutions. If we think, we can also come up with other new solutions. We can do our own research.
I mean, that's what the Institute of Internal Auditors, their definition also says that it's a consulting activity as well, जो internal audit है. तो और जब आपने ये हम enterprise risk management की बात की, resource management का सारा दिख रहा है, तो of course that will add synergy to that. Thank you, Shahid. We have now some further questions for our panelists. Talat Saab, sir, your guidance being a seasoned professional and substantially having served in external audit as well. The ISAs require effective and efficient coordination of external auditors and internal audit function. Your views on how both the audit functions can mutually coordinate to identify and address various business risks. The coordination between internal and external auditor with business risks.
External audit is entirely different thing. External audit में आपने financial statement पे अपना opinion देना है to the shareholders, और उसमें उसके opinion तक पहुंचने के लिए जितना काम करना है वो आपने अपने तौर पे करना है. लेकिन अगर effective internal audit मौजूद हो तो आप उनके audit report से फ़ायदा उठा सकते हैं, और जब अपनी audit planning करते हैं तो उसमें आप प्रॉपर आप दे सकते हैं कि कितना काम आप रिलाई उस पर करेंगे सिस्टम पे, और कितना आपको एक्सटेंसिवली मजीद करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन कोऑर्डिनेशन इज पॉसिबल. कोऑर्डिनेशन इन अ वे कि इन दोनों का जो एक राब्ता है वो हो सकता है थ्रू ऑडिट कमेटी. ऑडिट कमेटी इंटरनल ऑडिटर जो है वो तो डायरेक्टली अकाउंटेबल है ऑडिट कमेटी को. अच्छा, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर जो है वो थ्रू डायरेक्टली भी बात कर सकते हैं, लेकिन थ्रू ऑडिट कमेटी वो इंटरनल ऑडिट के साथ एक कोऑर्डिनेशन का एक प्लान कर सकते हैं कि वो इनिशियली तो वो स्टडी करेंगे उनके इंटरनल ऑडिट रिपोर्ट्स, और उसके बाद कौन सा ऐसा काम है जो वो इंटरनल ऑडिट से करवा के उस पर डिसाइड कर सकते हैं कि किस हद तक उन्होंने रिलाई करना है उस सिस्टम पे और उस अकाउंटिंग पे. सो कोऑर्डिनेशन इज़ पॉसिबल, और ये होनी भी चाहिए, क्योंकि बहुत सी ऐसी चीज़ें जो एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर के लिए करना मुश्किल है, पॉसिबल नहीं है लेकिन मुश्किल है. ही कैन सीक कंफर्ट फ्रॉम द इंटरनल ऑडिटर, लेकिन इससे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी और लायबिलिटी शेयर नहीं होगी. लायबिलिटी विल रिमेन विद द एक्सटर्नल ऑडिटर. वो जिस हद तक रिलाई कर सकता है ये उसका अपना डिसीजन.
Thank you very much, sir. Rana Sahab, moving on to you. There's a question for you. The prevention, deterrence, and detection of fraud are the responsibility of management. How can the internal auditors evaluate the internal controls that management has established to manage the risk of fraud?
But again, it mainly depends upon what sort of environment internal audit functioning in. कितनी मेच्योर है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इस मामले में, और ओवरऑल जो उनका एक कंट्रोल मैकेनिज्म है इस हद तक इस मामले में इफेक्टिव है. होता क्या है जनरली यहाँ पाकिस्तान के केस में, स्पेशली अगर मैं आपको प्रैक्टिकली इट इज़ वेरी राइट कि बेसिकली प्राइमरीली मैनेजमेंट की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है डिटेक्शन एंड प्रिवेंशन ऑफ फ्रॉड, लेकिन जो एक्सपेक्टेशन लेवल है जनरली वो टुवर्ड्स इंटरनल ऑडिट होता है कि ये लोग आगे इन सारी चीज़ों को अगर कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन आ गई है या अगर कहीं पे कोई ऐसी कोई चीज़ हो गई है तो इंटरनल ऑडिट को रिस्पॉन्सिबल ठहराया जाता है। बैलेंस इन दोनों फंक्शंस में जो मैनेजमेंट का कोर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है और जो इंटरनल ऑडिट का कंट्रोल्स को इवेल्युएट करने के लिहाज से उनके ऊपर जो एक प्राइम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बनती है उनमें एक सर्टेन बैलेंस और एक सर्टेन सिंक्रोनाइजेशन क्रिएट करने की ज़रूरत होती है तब जाके ये चीज़ मुनासिब तौर पर आगे बढ़ सकती है। अब उसमें बहुत सारी एग्जांपल्स कोट की जा सकती हैं कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर में से भी और कुछ अपने भी, लेकिन बात बड़ी जल्दी हो जाएगी। मैं इसको ज़रा थोड़ा सा थ्योरेटिकली ही हैंडल करने की कोशिश करता हूँ। देखिए, फ्रॉड रिजल्ट है और ये जनरली फ्रॉड की जो एक डेफिनेशन आती है कि उसकी प्रिवेंशन के लिए आप सर्टेन कंट्रोल्स रूल अपने तौर पर इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकते हैं, डिज़ाइन कर सकते हैं, लेकिन फ्रॉड होता ही तब है जब आप उसका कोई ना कोई एक साइड वे निकाल लेते हैं, अदरवाइज तो फ्रॉड पॉसिबल नहीं है। इसकी मुख्तलिफ रीजंस हो सकती हैं। ये जनरली जहाँ पे आपकी सेग्रीगेशन ऑफ ड्यूटीज़ और इस तरह के कुछ बेसिक कंट्रोल्स लैक कर रहे होते हैं वहाँ पे इनके चांसेस बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाते हैं। लेकिन मेरी ज़ाती ऑब्जर्वेशन में कुछ ऐसे केसेस भी आए कि अपेरेंटली कंट्रोल मैकेनिज्म में फ्लॉ नज़र नहीं आ रहा था, लेकिन लेबोरेटिव एफर्ट के साथ कुछ लोग जहाँ पे आपस में मिल जाते हैं वहाँ पे इस तरह के फ्रॉड फिर भी हो जाते हैं एट द एंड ऑफ द डे। अब इस लिमिटेशन को एक साइड पे रखते हुए ये तो एक ऐसी चीज़ है जिसको कि कोई भी शायद दुनिया का कंट्रोल या कोई भी कंट्रोल मैकेनिज्म इसको कर सकता। विद इन अ सर्टेन लिमिटेशन आप जहाँ तक अपने मॉनिटरिंग मैकेनिज्म को स्ट्रॉन्ग कर सकते हैं, जहाँ तक बेसिक कंट्रोल्स को इम्प्लीमेंट किया जा सकता है या वो सेट ऑफ कंट्रोल्स मैनेजमेंट ने अपनी जगह पे इम्प्लीमेंट किए और फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम उसको जब हम टेस्ट करते हैं इंटरनल ऑडिटर के तौर पर और कुछ वॉक थ्रूज भी हैं उसमें, कुछ और इस तरह की टेक्निक्स भी उसमें अडॉप्ट की जा सकती हैं, कहाँ कहाँ पे कोई लूप होल्स इस तरह के अवेलेबल हैं। और इसके साथ साथ दो बड़े अहम पहलू उसमें ये आ जाते हैं कि विसल ब्लोइंग का मैकेनिज्म किस हद तक स्ट्रांगली हमने मेंटेन किया हुआ विद इन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। आजकल के दौर में ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो चुका है, विसल ब्लोइंग और फिर विसल ब्लोअर्स को प्रोटेक्शन देना। उसके मुतालिक बहुत सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस तो बाकायदा विसल ब्लोइंग पॉलिसी भी बना के इम्प्लीमेंट कर रही है। इन सारी चीज़ों को इनकरेजिंग लेकिन एक बैलेंसिंग एक्ट के तौर पर लेकर चलना बहुत जरूरी हो चुका है। जहाँ जिन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में ये लिटरेटी आ गई है वहाँ पे बहुत इम्प्रूव्ड इन्वायरमेंट हो जाती है, बहुत रिड्यूस चांसेस हो जाते हैं, रिस्क बड़ा रिड्यूस हो जाता है फ्रॉड वगैरह के फ्रॉड से रिलेटेड। दूसरी चीज़ उसमें ये आ जाती है कि आप जब कहीं पे कोई इस तरह की कोई एक्टिविटी हुई है जो कि रिपोर्ट हुई है, उसके बाद आपने उसके ऊपर एक्शन क्या लिया, आपने वहाँ पे कोई एग्जाम्पल सेट की, फ्लैग रेजिंग को आपने किस अंदाज में आगे मेच्योर किया, इन्वेस्टिगेशन और इंक्वायरी का सेटअप किस तरीके से हुआ और एट द एंड ऑफ द डे फिर अक्रॉस द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन उस सारे वाकई की कम्युनिकेशन किस तरीके से की गई। दैट इज अगेन वन ऑफ द बेसिक थिंग्स which we need to undertake as internal auditors, how the information gets through the organization for future prevention. बहुत सारे केसेस में ऐसा होता है कि मामला दब जाते हैं और वो दोबारा से रीइमर्ज होना शुरू हो जाते हैं डिपेंडिंग अपॉन द साइज ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन। मैं जिस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में करंटली काम कर रहा हूँ ऑल अक्रॉस द कंट्री, बल्कि हमारा 9 कंट्रीज में डिफरेंट जगह पर स्प्रेड है, तो बहुत सारे केसेस में सेम सॉर्ट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम इमर्ज करना शुरू कर देती है डिफरेंट जगहों पे। तो इस तरह के बड़े स्प्रेड में और जो बैंक्स हैं उनमें भी तकरीबन ये सेम प्रॉब्लम, ये सेम रिपीट हो सकती हैं चीज़ें। तो इन ऑर्डर टू प्रिवेंट एनी रिपीटेशन ऑफ वट एवर सॉर्ट ऑफ फ्रॉड वंस वाज कंडक्टेड, उस चीज़ की कम्युनिकेशन अक्रॉस द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और जिसको कहते हैं कि एक थोड़ी सी एक एग्जाम्पल सेट कर देना, वो भी बड़ा ज़रूरी होता है। और इंटरनल ऑडिटर का इसमें भी एक इनडायरेक्टली रोल आ जाता है कि हाउ द थिंग्स आर मैनेज्ड आफ्टर अ फ्रॉड इज कंडक्टेड। आई होप द क्वेश्चन।
जी, very pertinent, very well noted.
बोला जा सकता है इनफैक्ट।
जी, I have just been told that we have to take care of the Maghrib time, so I have to take just 2 more questions. I'll been asked that we have time for that. Farooq, this one is for you. You being the member of Institute of Internal Auditors as well, and with reference to the 3 lines of defense defined by the Global Institute of Internal Auditors: principles of accountability, alignment, and collaboration. Your views with the role of internal audit on principles of accountability, alignment, and collaboration.
जी थैंक यू वेरी मच जी। अगर मैं ये कहूँ कि ये सवाल एक अरशद सिद्दीकी साहब हमारे हाजिरीन में उनके दिल की आवाज़ है तो गलत नहीं हुआ। उन्होंने ये सवाल एग्जैक्टली लेटेस्ट क्वेश्चन पूछा यही था। तो अरशद साहब आपको मुबारक हो कि आपका सवाल यहाँ पे हमने यहाँ पे हम उसको आंसर करने लगे हैं। सो आई जस्ट ट्राई आई अटेम्प्ट टू आंसर दिस सर। तो पहली बात तो 3 लाइंस ऑफ डिफेंस जो है ये कॉन्सेप्ट आई एम श्योर लोगों को यहाँ सूरज को चराग तरह दिखाने की सेकंड लाइन इज फॉर एग्जांपल इन केस ऑफ बैंक। अच्छा सेकंड लाइन की जरूरत की पेश आई बिकॉज यू सी कंप्लायंस रिक्वायरमेंट्स बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ती जा रही थी। जो ऑपरेशनल चैलेंजेस हैं ऑपरेशनल कॉम्प्लेक्सिटीज हैं दे इंक्रीज हेंस देयर वाज अ नीड के बिजनेस के ऊपर एक ब्रेक्स का एक फंक्शन है जो उनको स्टीयर करता रहे साथ साथ। अच्छा कोलैबोरेशन का जिक्र आमिर साहब ने भी जिक्र किया था कि देयर इज आजकल के टाइम में देयर इज दिस इज नीड ऑफ द आवर कि हम कोलैबोरेट करें। इनफैक्ट इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स की एक प्रैक्टिस गाइड है इट इज आई बिलीव टाइटल्ड रिलायंस बाय इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स ऑन अदर कंप्लायंस अदर एश्योरेंस और वो पेपर इज अ वेरी डिटेल्ड डॉक्यूमेंट एंड जिन हजरात की ख्वाहिश है इस डॉक्यूमेंट इस कॉन्सेप्ट को ज्यादा पढ़ने के लिए हवाले से तो इसको प्लीज इस प्रैक्टिस एडवाइजरी को पढ़िए। इट इज अ ब्यूटीफुल डॉक्यूमेंट। मेरा जो जवाब है वो मैं उसी डॉक्यूमेंट को ही इस्तेमाल करता हूँ। यार एक्सक्यूज मी जस्ट गिव मी अ सेकंड सॉरी। सो मेरा जो जवाब है वो उसी गाइड की रोशनी में ही है। अच्छा बेनिफिट्स ऑफ कोर्स कोलैबोरेशन के क्या है। पहले तो आपको जनरली इंटरनल ऑडिट इज अ पॉइंट इन टाइम काइंड ऑफ एन एक्टिविटी। मैं एक मखसूस वक्त में गया जाके एक मखसूस टाइम पीरियड के काम को देख के आता। फिर अगर मैं इस कोलैबोरेशन एक्टिविटी में जाता हूं तो मेरी कवरेज बढ़ती है अदारे के अंदर। मेरी आईज एंड ईयर्स बढ़ जाती हैं इफ आई एम रिलाइंग ऑन द सेकंड लाइन ऑफ डिफेंस व्हिच फॉर एग्जांपल इन आवर केस इज द रिस्क मैनेजमेंट एंड कंप्लायंस। डुप्लीकेशन ऑफ एफर्ट कैन रिड्यूस। आपके अदारे के लिए कॉस्ट बेनिफिशियल भी होगा एंड द इंटरनल ऑडिट कैन डायरेक्ट इट्स रिसोर्सेज ऑन दोज एरियाज जहां पे वाकईतन मसला है। अगर एक जगह पे आपको कंफर्ट आ गई है एंड अभी हम उसकी बात करते हैं कि वो कंफर्ट ड्रॉ किस तरह करनी है आपने क्योंकि अभी ब्लाइंड रिलायंस की बात नहीं हम कर रहे। वी कैन नॉट ब्लाइंडली रिलाई ऑन एनीथिंग ना। आपको कोई सर्टन माइलस्टोन्स या थ्रेशोल्ड्स के ऊपर कोई चीज पूरी आ रही होगी मयार पे उतर रही होगी तभी आप उस पर रिलायंस प्लेस करोगे। सो डुप्लीकेशन ऑफ एफर्ट कैन गेट रिड्यूस। कवरेज है पूरे अदारे के अंदर एंड आपके जो मैनेजमेंट एक्शंस हैं वो बड़े क्विक होने शुरू।
Farooq, we are losing to you. There's a technological issue. Shahid bhai, the last question.
Management, अगर वो second line of
Farooq, if we have time, we'll get back to you. I think we are losing you for technical reasons. Shahid, the
बातों को मान रही है तो वो खुद से वो काम करी जो तीन लाइंस ऑफ डिफेंस दे वर्क टुगेदर टुवर्ड्स दिस।
जी Farooq, we lost you. If you can complete it in 1 minute, please.
Just quickly, the point is कि that practice guide reliance place करने से पहले what is important is that you need to see कि skill set क्या है जो आपका assurance provider है उसका, how objective that assurance provider is, क्या independence वो enjoy करता है and आपका इसका पूरा जो निज़ाम है उसमें there has to be a documented SLA between you and that other person जिसमें आप extent of reliance document भी करें। All of this again as I mentioned वो practice advisory please पढ़िए और जो हमारे साथी जिन्होंने सवाल पूछा
जी thank you Farooq. Shahid, coming to you just quickly because I have to take another resilience, the concept that is now very much advocated by Institute of Risk Management and that is being inculcated in our businesses. That is with reference to that the multiple risks, shocks and stresses, their impact on the business environment. So हम पहले बात करते थे organization sustainable हो, अब हम एक resilient organization की बात करते हैं which can stand up to any challenges. Your views with reference to this, what do you feel how it should be managed internally to keep it abreast with the changes, the way business processes respond to that?
So voice में थोड़ी distortion थी. I was not able to listen to the complete question. लेकिन I think you're talking about resilience. Resilience, of course, for the internal auditors to perform whatever. और थोड़ा सा time भी ऊपर हो गया मतलब क्या वाले से. So I'll be very brief. I think resilience in the current circumstances. We can talk for hours on this, but I mean, it kind of encompasses everything that we've discussed so far, I would say. In short, if we simply focus on what we need to deliver as internal auditors, maintain that focus, and that includes broadening our horizon first, of course, and focusing on the right thing, which is actually required by our stakeholders. If we maintain that focus on one hand and then assess the gap, are we able to deliver, and invest in ourselves. Rather, I would say continuously invest in ourselves, because the world is changing. So the focus would also continue to change, and our learning should also be continuous. So I think because the challenges would always be there, would always renew the way they're coming. So in order to be resilient, we need to be focused on what we need to deliver and the needs of our stakeholders. If we have a focus on that and we invest in our own resources on how to be able to deliver that value, I think these two in short hold the solution to be resilient. This is my, we can talk about other things, because from resilience, stakeholder expectations also comes to my mind. But because an auditors, internal auditors generally picks between being in the need of managing different stakeholders. So for example, on one side we need to do consulting to maintain our to fulfill the needs of the management. On the other side, many audit committees would not like us to do a lot of consulting. I mean, it kind of shows to them that we're too close to the management. They would like the auditors to be more on the policing side. So it really depends, what are the sentiments of the audit committee. And so, but in short, as I mentioned earlier, that in order to be resilient, we need to focus what the needs of the stakeholders are and how we'll be able to meet them, and then continuously learn and invest in ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you. With this, I'm extremely grateful to all my august panelists, Talat Javed Saab, Amir Rana Saab, Farooq Wasi, Shahid Rizvi, for all their kind words. Indeed, it has been a much beneficial session for our members and all our even students and the thousands who are watching at the Facebook. Really, it's been a very, very appreciated session. The response that we have received till now, that speaks loads of your competence and skills, how you have helped us all on this important topic. Now, moving on to the next part, it's our pleasure to have with us Rana Mohammad Osman Khan, the Vice President of our institute. Rana Saab, of course, we all know, has served for 3 consecutive terms at NRC, has served as chairman for 4 terms, and currently serving as the council member of the institute. He is representing ICAP on the Asian Oceanic Standard Setters Group. He is a member of the Accounting Standards Board of Pakistan and is the chairman of Auditing Ethics Standards Board of the institute. He is a member of various committees of the institute, including Examination Committee, Education and Training Committee, Investigation Committee. He is partner of Deloitte Yusuf Adil Salim and is board member. Rana sir, we shall appreciate your pearls of wisdom, please, sir.
Thank you very much, Jazeb. Can you hear me?
Ji, we can very well.
Okay, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm traveling, so मेरी शायद video mute रहेगी, and I may be having some network issue. तो कहीं आवाज शायद आपको clearly ना पहुंचे, but I'll try to unmute my video as well, so that if I can be visible. Let me see. है कुछ I mean visibility?
Visible and audible.
Jazeb?
Ji,
Might not be of that quality, but of course. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Very kind of you, Jazeb, for inviting me to this webinar. Very effective and need of the time, of course, I would say. And such a detailed introduction as well. I mean, ये बड़ा informal सा शायद हमारे यहाँ हो गया है कि हम बहुत अब डिटेल इंट्रोडक्शन जनरली कराते नहीं हैं, बट आपने दिया उसमें भी बड़ा डिटेल इंट्रोडक्शन आपने सबका प्रेजेंट किया. नाउ डेफिनेटली यू हैव introduced to the audience as well. It's good to be here. Definitely, I have been connected throughout this presentation. Excellent presentation by Shahid. I must appreciate his input, valuable, I mean, value creation, of course. अगर मैं ये कहूँ कि आज के दुल्हा जो हैं इस वेबिनार के वो शाहिद हैं, तो शायद गलत नहीं होगा. As you have also said, he has generated a lot of fans today, and definitely very good question answer session. I must appreciate all this. Talal Saab ki participation, Farooq Wasi as usual. ये जो लोगों के नाम पहचानने के बाद फिर सबको ये आंसर करता है, तो as of his style, Rana definitely going into deep. So I have really enjoyed it, and I'm sure that all the audience must have enjoyed it, and it has been value creation for everyone. Generally internal auditors, बल्कि अब कहते हैं generally auditors, but very specifically internal auditors को खुश करना बड़ा मुश्किल काम है. But I'm sure that the event went today the way it has went. The presentation has been made, and the question answers has been handled. I think they must have appreciated it, and they must have liked it. Just briefly, because we are at the end of the seminar as well, और फिर आपने भी मगरिब की ब्रेक भी करनी है. मैं थोड़ा सा आपको ना हिस्टोरिकल पर्सपेक्टिव अगर लेके जाऊं, मैं रिकॉल कर रहा हूं अपना आर्टिकल टाइम. लाइक माय आर्टिकल टाइम वाज 88 to 92. तो मैंने एक एंटिटी विजिट की व्हिच वाज ऑफ रीजनेबल साइज, जहां पे इंटरनल ऑडिट जो है वो बड़ा समझा जाता था कि इफेक्टिव डिपार्टमेंट है एंड वेरी कॉम्पिटेंट पर्सन इज देयर. तो खैर जो उसकी रेपुटेशन थी उसको सुनते हुए हम भी गए, हम जाके उनसे मिले. So to my surprise, जो CFO थे of the company, he was a qualified chartered accountant, and the internal auditor, chief internal auditor, was having commerce graduation qualification. मेरे लिए एक surprise था कि how a person who is not equal to equivalent qualification of a CFO, how can he exercise independence, और वो उसको कैसे handle कर सकेगा on different times. Like उसने फिर CFO को सिर्फ handle नहीं करना, he has to encounter CEO as well and different senior management personnel. So that was the time when I think this whole process started, and gradually it went up to qualifications be defined हो गई. Then audit committee came in, code of corporate governance ने बहुत सारी जो है वो let's say good practices आपको suggest की, and through that I feel really एक जो independence मिलनी चाहिए थी internal auditor को, that has been extended to internal auditor by the audit committee, of course. So अब इस current scenario में with rights, qualification, with right authority, and having independence through audit committee, I think now it's a big challenge for the internal auditor to deliver. अब delivery क्या करनी है basically? Delivery भी अगर मैं over the period historically देखूं, मैं अभी आपके जो participants हैं उनकी list में इफ्तिखार चौधरी साहब का नाम देख रहा था, इफ्तिखार अजीज चौधरी साहब. We have been working on this internal audit thing since very inception of our profession. Like जब मैंने 94 में qualify किया, तो I think 95-96 में there was an institute called Institute of Internal Auditors basically. उसका पाकिस्तान chapter था, Institute of Internal Auditors Pakistan chapter. तो उसका actually I became associated with that, और इफ्तिखार साहब वहाँ पे थे. At that point in time मुझे याद है कोई 1-2 साल के बाद हमने को 98-99 में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस की. तो उस कॉन्फ्रेंस का जो थीम था, it was उस at that time I'm talking about 22 years earlier, कि paradigm shift in the internal audit approach. अब वो paradigm shift क्या था basically? People were saying कि आप जो है सिर्फ transactions का audit करते हैं, आप taking करते हैं. Now you have to come out of it, और अब आपको जाना है risk management को. Now you have to become consultative partner of the management. आप उनके risk assessment करेंगे, जो risk management plan है उसको review करेंगे, और एक parallel आपकी एक appraisal activity है जो continue करेगी. अब इस process में definitely उसके challenges क्या थे, that conference was on that type. लेकिन शाहिद ने भी जो last में comment दिया ना, तो मुझे वो recall हो रहा था कि वो fight शायद आज भी है, कि अगर वो consultant होने की कोशिश करता है internal audit, तो कहा जाता है कि यार you are more close to management. अगर वो मैनेजमेंट का ऑडिट करता है हिस्टोरिकल डाटा का, ट्रांजेक्शन्स का, तो कहा जाता है कि जी आप तो कोई वैल्यू क्रिएशन नहीं कर रहे हैं. तो आई मीन इट्स वेरी चैलेंजिंग सॉर्ट ऑफ असाइनमेंट फॉर द इंटरनल ऑडिटर कि उसने एट द सेम टाइम जो भी आपकी वहाँ ट्रांजेक्शन्स हो रही हैं, जो बिजनेस डिसीजंस लिए जा रहे हैं, जो पोजीशंस ली जा रही हैं, डेफिनेटली आप उसको भी देख रहे हैं कि जी वो कंट्रोल्स के मुताबिक हैं, सिस्टम के मुताबिक हैं, कंपनी के जो ऑब्जेक्टिव्स हैं उससे अलाइन करती हैं. बट एट द सेम टाइम जो कंपनी ने अपना रिस्क मैनेजमेंट प्लान बनाया है उसको भी आप सामने रख के बहुत सारी चीजें फ्यूचरिस्टिक कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी देख रहे हैं. एंड दिस ऑल रिक्वायर्स lot of skill set, I must say. It's not only accounting knowledge, it's not only financial knowledge, it's more of a business knowledge in my view. बिजनेस एक्यूमेन, जितना आप उस अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बिजनेस को समझते हैं, उसकी लेट्स से ट्रांजैक्शंस को आप उसी तरह से ट्रांसलेट कर पाएंगे. जितना आपको ये पता है कि इस बिजनेस की निटी-ग्रिटीज इस तरह से हैं, इसमें टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट चाहिए हो रही हैं, प्रोफेशनल डेवलपमेंट चाहिए हो रही हैं, चैलेंजेस ये आएंगे, तो then you will be able to let's say appreciate कि इस बिजनेस के क्या challenges हो सकते हैं, क्या रिस्क हो सकते हैं, मैनेजमेंट उनको किस तरह से हैंडल करेगी. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स यू कैन कम अप विद वैल्यू एडिशन के जी ओके मैनेजमेंट ने रिस्क मैनेजमेंट प्लान एक बना लिया एंड नाउ दे आर हैंडलिंग इट, दे हैव राइट सिस्टम्स, दे हैव राइट लेट्स से पीपल ऑन बोर्ड. सो दिस ऑल प्रोसेस हैज टू गो हैंड इन हैंड. मैनेजमेंट अपना एग्जीक्यूशन का काम कर रही है और इंटरनल ऑडिटर जो है डेफिनेटली एक इंडिपेंडेंट अप्रेजल का काम कर रहा है. अच्छा, अब इसमें थोड़ा सा एक और पर्सपेक्टिव है कि ये सारा स्किल सेट अभी तक हम बड़ा इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे हैंडल कर रहे हैं. लाइक जैसा शाहिद ने भी कहा कि कुछ सीनियर्स ने काम किया, उन्होंने एक आपको प्लेटफॉर्म दे दिया, लोग आए, उन्होंने ज्वाइन किया और उससे एक रिस्पेक्ट कैरी करते हुए, वैल्यू कैरी करते हुए, now they have also created something and now we have to create value and we have to create a platform कि हम अपने आने वालों के लिए एक ऐसी फाउंडेशन छोड़ के जाएं कि they should be able to let's say base on that. Okay, but of course this needs to वो इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ इंटरनल ऑडिटर के कॉन्टेक्स्ट में जैसे मैंने आपको बताया उसका एक पाकिस्तान चैप्टर था, then we had 3 more chapters where we tried to make a national institution. Unfortunately that failed. Recently something which I wanted to share with my audience कि जिसमें हमने एक इंटरनल ऑडिट की कमेटी फॉर्म की है which is being headed by काउंसिल मेंबर हमारी जो साउथ से वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हैं मिस हिना उस्मानी, शी इज हेडिंग इट. और उसमें हमारा ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है टू प्रोवाइड अ प्लेटफॉर्म to all internal auditors. Firstly, हमारे अपने प्रोफेशन के जो लोग हैं, हमारे members, those who are working in different, let's say, entities as internal auditors. और फिर इसको थोड़ा broaden up करके, we may extend it to, let's say, non-members as well. But उस प्लेटफॉर्म का बेसिक ऑब्जेक्टिव यही है कि टू कैरी आउट रिसर्च कि दुनिया में क्या हो रहा है, इंटरनल ऑडिटर्स के स्टैंडर्ड्स कैसे डेवलप हो रहे हैं, एंड हाउ टू डिसेमिनेट ऑल दैट, क्योंकि इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे हम सब कर रहे हैं. शायद सेट के जी बहुत सारे फ्री कोर्सेज अवेलेबल हैं, वन शुड बी इनकरेज टू डू इट, बट ऑफ कोर्स जब आप इसको किसी प्लेटफॉर्म पे लेके आते हैं, किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन पे लेके आते हैं, तो देन आई मीन देयर आर सिनर्जीज, देयर आर लेट्स से कोलैबोरेशंस एंड लॉट ऑफ लेट्स से सपोर्ट अवेलेबल टू इंस्टीट्यूट्स बाय द इंस्टीट्यूट. सो एक बहुत आपकी जो सिनर्जी जो है वो एनहेंस कर जाती हैं. तो आई एम होपिंग दैट कमेटी हम कंस्टिट्यूट कर चुके हैं, उसमें हमने नॉन काउंसिल मेंबर्स भी लिए हैं जो कि लोग बाहर काम कर रहे हैं, एंड वी आर होपिंग कि दैट कमेटी विल वर्क टुवर्ड्स द वेलफेयर एंड आई मीन वेलबीइंग ऑफ द इंटरनल ऑडिटर प्रोफेशनल्स जो हमारे अपने मेंबर्स हैं फर्स्टली, एंड देन we can extend it to the non-members as well. And with all this, I think we all should work together. It's again great initiative by the regional committee. एक बहुत relevant topic पे आपने चीज उठाई है. Rather I must say कि ये एक शायद सेमिनार का टॉपिक नहीं है, it's a conference topic. इसके बहुत सारे एंगल्स हैं देखने वाले जो कि शायद अभी मैं समझता हूँ कि अनसेटिस्फाइड रह गए हैं. लाइक रिस्क मैनेजमेंट एक बिल्कुल अलग से टॉपिक है. डेटा की जिस तरह साइंस की बात हो रही है, डेटा हैज चेंज्ड आवर लाइफ बेसिकली. नॉट ओनली इंटरनल ऑडिट, एक्सटर्नल ऑडिट में भी बहुत सारे चेंजेस हैं, आप विटनेस करते हैं, हम डेली लाइफ में विटनेस करते हैं. बट हाउ टू know about it, how to develop your skill set for that, उसके क्या challenges हैं, क्या options available हैं, कौन से forums available हैं. So I think sometimes we may consider this as a conference topic. And inshallah look forward to have that very active committee of internal audit, and let's all join hand with them. आप जो लोग support कर सकते हैं, इस वक्त उनका सारी information available है on the website. आप सब लोगों से मेरी request है, people like Shahid, Amir Rana, इनको मैं जानता हूँ बड़े अरसे से internal audit के लिए बड़ा एक value creation का काम कर रहे हैं. They all should come forward and they should support that committee. And at the institute के level पे अगर हम कोई forum ऐसा create कर सके जहाँ standardization हो सके, members की skills का develop हो सके, and definitely we can continue our journey from here. Wish you all the best, and once again thank you very much Jahazeb for inviting me to this event. Thanks to NRC for holding this wonderful webinar, and once again my lot of appreciations to Shahid. Thanks to Tala Saab, such a senior professional to be part of it. Farooq Wasi as lively speaker as he always. Amir Rana, I'm always admirer of his insights and in deep analysis of the topic. Thank you very much, and take care, and stay safe, and lot of praise for everyone. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you very much, Rana Sahab, for your kind words. Indeed, they are very much encouraging, and of course, this will add value and to the stature of the internal audit, its importance and resilience that we have all talked about. With that, I would like to thank you all on behalf of your Northern Regional Committee. Your continuous support and encouragement, it helps us bring more good to our members. We look forward to bringing even more sessions to you, and with your continued input, inshallah, we continue to improve on the scale bar. Thank you all. Have a safe evening. Stay safe. Pakistan Zindabad. Khuda Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, all. Allah Hafiz to all. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you very much.
Chalo bhai.